Hey, good evening. I've got something to show you guys tonight. This is my giant pencil. Look at this. Isn't this cool? This is this, this is the symbol of a socialist candidate who recently won the presidency in Peru. That's Pedro Castillo, who is a socialist and an educator. And so I'm delighted to see that win. And so I got my own version of his symbol. Isn't this cool? My name is Dr. Asatar Bear. I'm a professor of economics and a teacher of meditation. I teach this live stream meditation class every week to introduce you to the basics of heart rhythm meditation. This is a meditation method that comes out of Sufism. That's the esoteric tradition of Islam. And it focuses on the breath and the heartbeat, very unique kind of practice. And I found it to be very effective. It's helped me a great deal, so I'm delighted to share it with you. um, so I want to talk about a couple of things in this class and continue on some of the themes that I've been discussing in previous classes. If you haven't seen those, they're all on the YouTube channel. You can review them if you want. I try to start at the beginning every time because I always have some new people, and I want to make the class accessible and not assume that you've been watching the whole time or whatever. If you have been, great, then you're going to hear some stuff again. That's probably okay, right? So this kind of meditation comes out of a certain Sufi tradition, and that is the lineage of Hazrat Inayat Khan, who was an Indian mystic musician who in the early 20th century came to Europe and the United States and spent his whole professional career teaching in the West. Um, so before I get too much into the philosophy teaching part of it, let's try it out, right? Let's do some meditation so you can get a sense for what this is, and maybe how it is similar and how it is different from other kinds of meditation. So the first thing is to work on your posture, right? To get the right posture for meditation. So what we want there is we want your spine to be upright and yet to be relaxed. Okay, so we're seeking a balance between being very engaged, right? When your back is upright, especially when your back is not touching anything, right? It's not resting against anything, right? Um, it sends a signal to your nervous system, right, that this is a time for you to be active, right? But at the same time, we're being still and we're trying to relax and open ourselves, right? Our minds, we're trying to relax the tension in our muscles and our bodies, right? Um, we're trying to focus on our breath. So we want our posture to help with all this, not hinder it, right? Not get in the way. So we want to be relaxed, but in the container of being, you know, active, right? So it's a kind of a contradiction, right? We're trying to do two things at once here. All right. Um, Now, if you're sitting in a chair that's not necessarily all that well suited for meditation, like mine, I just have like a regular office chair. You can kind of see, right? So see how my back is not touching it, right? If I sit upright, my back is not being supported by the chair, and that's important, right? Because if you lean back, if you touch it, then right, that's a little bit too relaxed, right? Because we don't want to be sleeping, right? Meditation is not sleep. Um, Sleep is good. Sleep is vital. We need that, right? Um, but it has a different purpose, right? Um, when we're meditating, we want to concentrate, right? That is the cornerstone, the beginning of meditation, not the end, but it's the beginning. Okay, so we want a posture that's going to help us to concentrate, right? Um, Now, because all of us we live in the modern world, right? We're all under a lot of stress. So we need to de-stress, right? We need to find a way to relax. And we're gonna in this method we're gonna do that in a particular way, right? We're gonna relax by working harder than you might think. I know it sounds like a paradox, right? Like relaxing, oh, doesn't sound like working hard, right? So what do I mean by that? I mean we're going to pay attention, right? We're going to be in the moment and be here now, right? We're going to really focus on the breath, and we're going to really try to perfect the breath, make the breath optimal, right? And there's 5 parts to that, okay? So you get your posture together. It's good if your knees can be a little bit below or even with the level of your hips. I have a little cushion that I like to support, like my lower back or kind of top of my butt area, like that. That helps me to just, keep that little bit of space between the back of the chair, right? So I'm sort of perching on it, right? The pillow is pushing me forward a little bit. All right. So you can experiment with your posture. You can sit on the floor. There's lots of different ways you can do it. You don't have to have a chair. You can be standing, but the main thing is you want that upright spine, and you want to be as relaxed as you can be given that. Okay. um, it's important that the spine be upright, both because it activates your a certain part of your nervous system, right, which is tuned to activity. um, and it's also important because your spine actually conducts electricity at very low levels. All right. So a conductor of electricity that's in an electromagnetic field, the Earth's electromagnetic field, right, will itself generate an electromagnetic field, right? So we want to, that, and that's part of our energetic system. That's when this is what we're working with in meditation, right? So we want to activate that. We want to engage that. All right. So that's the importance of posture. And you close your eyes and tune into your breathing. And the first thing we want to work on with our breath is making the breath deep. So that is breathing diaphragmatically, right? That means a long word, but it means your belly expands as you breathe in, and it contracts, gets smaller as you breathe out. So very important. Try that out. And you can take your hand and just place it on your belly or on your solar plexus here, so that you can feel your belly rising and falling as you breathe. Now, this is a very natural way of breathing. When we relax, we tend to breathe in this manner. It both is activated by our relaxation, and very importantly, it itself activates the relaxation response. It shifts our nervous system into it's called the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's been called the relaxation response. It's part of what really helps us to slow down and shed the stress of ordinary modern life. So the first part of optimal breathing is breathing deeply, breathing deep in the belly. Now, I should say that if you're having trouble following any of these steps, or if you just want it to be laid out very clearly, I do that in a course that I offer to all my patrons. If you're interested in that, you can check out my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/asatarbear. The link is in the description. So if you'd like to support the show, and you also get access to this whole step-by-step course. All right, the next step is to make the breath slow, deep and slow. Now, again, this is something that happens naturally as you relax, but we're going to aid the process by paying attention to it. And so as you watch your breath, as you pay attention to it, notice the amount of flow that is happening in your breath, right? So that is the volume of air. If you're breathing in and out through your nose, which I assume you are, There's different ways of breathing, right? We have different patterns of breathing through the nose and the mouth. Um, Breathing through your nose, you might be able to feel that flow of air, right? You might notice if you breathe more, uh, intensely, right? You breathe in faster, the flow of air is greater, right? So, this the Sufis refer to this as the breath being gross or fine. All right, gross or fine. So, gross breath, right? Unrefined breath doesn't mean gross like repulsive. It means gross like not refined. Right? Is breath which is noisy, which is big, which is, I mean, I think you kind of get it, right? The breath which is, rushes in and then, it doesn't have an even flow, right? So we are trying to refine the breath, right? So deep, slow. We also want to make it even. We want to make it smooth. Okay, this is all part of really paying close attention to the breath, right? Studying the breath, right? Studying it as if it's a sacred scripture, right? Studying it as if it has the keys to the self and the universe in it, which it does. Deep, slow, even, refined breathing. All right. Feel your breath flowing like a river, in and out. And the way you make it slow is you extend it, right? You extend the exhalation, you breathe out a little bit more than you're used to, and then you breathe in more. Okay. Now, this kind of breathing is not going to feel natural, right? It's a little bit like changing the way you walk, right? You walk the way that you walk. It's a long pattern, right? A habituated pattern. Um, if you try to walk differently, that's is going to feel weird, right? You're going to have to pay attention to it. So the same is true for breathing. If you try to breathe differently, that's going to feel very different, right? Um, you're going to have to pay attention to it in order to maintain it. And that's good because what are you doing? You're concentrating, right? You're focusing your mind on what is happening right now. Right now, you're breathing. And that breath is an exchange of energy between yourself and the universe. Wow, right? That's something we could really benefit from exploring more deeply, from studying, from feeling every part of that process. Deep, slow. Now, we also want to make our breath rhythmic. Okay, rhythmic means the same length on both parts of the breath, right? The breath has an inhalation and an exhalation. So try to make the inhalation and the exhalation the same length and the same intensity. This is an even rhythm. Now, we'd also like to make the breath heart centered. All right. So, what that means is your breath is focused on your heart, it is centered on your heart. The breath is energy. And we want that energy to be flowing into your heart. What do I mean by your heart? I mean your heart chakra, okay? The energy field of your heart. Um, so it corresponds with your physical heart, right? But that's not all that's there, right? So what it's like when we say a person has a lot of heart, right? We don't just mean we're not just talking about a physical organ that pumps blood, right? We're talking about what that person is, who they are, right? So that is what we want to connect that to the breath. Okay. So we want the breath to You just, visualize this, right? Use your mind to visualize this, okay? The air part of the breath is, of course, coming in through your nose, right? Um, or your mouth. If your nose is stuffed or whatever, it might need to be, some of it might come through your mouth. But, you know, that's the air part, right? The energy part goes where your mind directs it. So focus your mind, right? Try this out. As you're breathing in here, right? Energy is coming to the center of your being, right? So, what it is you value, what it is you desire, what are your principles, who are you, right? That is what I mean by heart. Feel that being energized as you breathe. And as you breathe out, imagine that you are extending your energetic field. You are radiating that. You are expressing yourself, right? Energy is flowing in and flowing out. That's life, right? Our privilege is to be able to decide how we direct that energy, right? How we use that energy. And that's our life, right? So, right now, we're just tuning in to that elemental, that fundamental energy that we exchange every breath with the universe. We're just paying attention to it. And we're also perfecting it, right? We're making that breath even. It's very common for it to be uneven, for one side of the breath to be longer than the other side, and that makes the other side of it has to be more intense. It has to be more rapid. It has to be more volume per unit of time, right? It has to in order to make up the difference, right? So we want to even that out, right? Same length, same rhythm, okay? You want to play on the breath like you're playing an instrument. Now, the best way to make the breath rhythmic and heart centered at the same time is to tune into your heartbeat. Um, and now, for some, this is difficult, right? Some people, maybe about half of the people that I've taught, many people over the years, right, um, have not been able to feel their heartbeat right away. If that's you, that's okay, right? That's a normal thing. A lot of people can feel it, but a lot of people also struggle with that. So you take your hand, one hand or both hands, and place it on your chest. Sometimes this can be enough to really bring your attention here. The pressure of your palm, the one that's on the chest. Sometimes you'll feel the heartbeat just by having your hand spread out. Sometimes that'll enable you to feel the pulse in your hand, right? If you flex your fingers a little bit, I know that looks a little bit weird, but if you do that, even just slightly, right, you can start to feel the pulse. Or you can just press with your fingertips. It doesn't have to be hard. Just press a little bit on your breastbone. This has a similar kind of effect. Okay. So try that out. Try to tune into your heartbeat and feel it and try to harmonize with the beats of your heart. Breathing in rhythm with your heartbeat means the same number of beats on the inhalation as the exhalation. You can choose the number that works for you. I often like to do 8 beats in, 8 beats out. Or sometimes I do longer than that. Sometimes I do 12. 8 and 12 are kind of it's like my go to rhythms. Now, the last element of this practice, this basic practice of our rhythm meditation, is we want to make the breath full. Okay. So we want to be using much more of our lung capacity than we normally use. So there's uh, a medical term for this. It's called forced inspiratory vital capacity, and that tells you um, how much of your lung capacity is under your voluntary control, right? So, the way that the lungs draw in air is that your muscles change the shape of your torso, right? And by changing the shape, it creates a partial vacuum. So when you breathe in, you're making your torso bigger, right? And by making it bigger, it must then draw in air, right? That is the mechanical way that we breathe. So, and there's different ways of doing that. Okay, so one way is by we if the diaphragm relaxes. Okay, the diaphragm is a muscle that we do not have direct voluntary control over, but we do have control over our abdominal muscles, right? So if we by using our abdominal muscles, right, and well, our diaphragm relaxes and does this, right? It kind of bows down like this, right? And that creates that partial vacuum that I mentioned. Okay, so deep breathing with the belly expanding and contracting, that's how that works, right? So if you want to take a really big breath, you can't just use your belly, right? You have to you use your belly, yes, but then you have to use the rest of the muscles that go all the way up to here, right? Um, so if we want to breathe more, we want to breathe bigger, right? Then we're going to have to bring it up into the chest. Okay, breathing in the chest is called thoracic breathing. We don't want to just do that, right? This is why I started with deep breathing, right? But once we've gotten relaxed, once we've established our breathing rhythm, once we've been doing this for a little while, we can then start to breathe bigger, start to breathe more. Um, so try that out. Try taking a bigger breath. And the way you do this is you really squeeze your abdominal muscles on the exhalation. Breathe all the way out. Okay, you can keep the same rhythm, you can keep the same count, but you increase the volume of breath, right? So you breathe out more in the same period of time. And then, of course, you breathe in more, having created room for new breath to come in. All right, we'll end our little session of meditation there. I hope you're getting good results there. I hope you're feeling something. Um, sometimes we don't know exactly how it's going until after, until we get a sense of like, well, what's different, what's how have we changed. Um, I sometimes hear this from people. If I do a lot of meditation, and somebody will say, "Well, your face is really glowing," or "or you look a lot younger." Always nice to hear, right? um, you might look at me and say, "I'm not a person who's concerned about looking younger right now," but it's always nice. Um, so the point is, right? Sometimes you don't know in the moment how you've changed. You only know by comparison, right? By getting that perspective. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about meditation more broadly. Discuss some of the teachings that support the practice. Um, you know, there's uh, there's all kinds of good reasons to meditate. And a lot of the benefits of meditation come from doing it regularly, Doing it every day, right? Doing it at the same time every day, that would be even better, right? Making it part of your routine, right? In the same way that we eat every day or brush our teeth every day or exercise every day, or all the things that we do for self-care, or to go through the rhythm of our lives, right? So in order to do that, right? In order anything that you do every day, you've got to have a really good reason, right? Because I mean, come on, life abhors a vacuum, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. So, whenever there's a moment, right, your life kind of swallows it up, right? You have to maintain that, you have to defend that, and you have to know why it's important, right? Um, I mean, you have a better shot, let's say, right? Um, uh, nobody's perfect. That's okay. But you're gonna have a better shot at maintaining a practice if you know why it's important. And so that's why I always include some, you know, broader teachings or philosophy, just to try to help you, get a get that down, right? And what is the reason that what do you why do you want to meditate, right? Why do you come to this? What is it that you desire? What is it that you need, right? So Hasran Icon has some great thoughts on this. I will post a link to this piece of writing that I'm looking at here now. This is from a set of teachings that he produced, which is called the Unity of Religious Ideals. And in this, he talks about the five desires, right? Um, and what's interesting here is that these desires um, go along with the different kinds of energy that we talked about um, uh, before. Last class, I talked about the elements. Hmm. Whew. Got a little bit of an allergy thing there. My eyes are watering. um, so we were talking about the elements. Okay, the elements is a very old um, conception of energy, right? Way of talking about energy. It's a way of talking about something that is, um, it's kind of difficult to understand, right? Energy. Um, that's that's not something that we can see, or right. We have to we see the effects of it, right? So one of the ways that the mystics and philosophers over the years talked about that was in terms of metaphorically, right, in terms of things that people understood, right? So you understand that there's a difference between earth, right, and water, right? And so say, well, okay, imagine the qualities of earth and the qualities of water, right? Or imagine the qualities of fire or of air, right? And so this is the four elements, right? So very ancient idea, right, to discuss things in this way. Um, there are other ways of talking about energy, like for example, in the Taoist tradition, they use yin and yang, right? And yin and yang is, that's a different way of talking about energy, but it has some similarities. Okay, um, it is, yin is basically like water and earth, and yang is like a combination of air and fire. So anyway, because energy is energy, right? So if you use a different way of talking about, different metaphor for it, it's like if you use a different metaphor to talk about love, right? Love is love, it's a little bit hard to talk about because everyone's experience of it is different, right? But it has some common features as well, right? So we use metaphors to talk about it because that's what language is, right? Um, and somebody might use one metaphor and somebody else might use another, but it's the same thing that we're talking about, right? Um, so what we're trying to do though with meditation, what makes it different from just discussing ideas or discussing philosophy, is we are trying to put these things into action, right? We're trying to not just get an intellectual understanding of what is energy, but to feel it, right? To experience it. um, we don't want to just talk about love. We want to fall in love. Like that's 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 what meditation is as a practice, right? It's experiential. Um, We're not writing books on it, the thing here, right? You know, I mean, oh, maybe you guys will. I don't know, but you have to experience it first, right? Um, okay, so we have different ways of breathing, which bring forth these different kinds of energy, right? So the we have a breath which we use to invoke the qualities of earth, right? The strength, durability, the foundation, right? The root, the ability of earth to take in different elements, different aspects, right? I mean, what does like soil do, right? It takes all these different organic elements and turns it into something very fertile, right? Something that life can come out of, right? It unifies different elements, puts them in its place, right? So, okay, those are very interesting qualities, right? Um, and perhaps some of those qualities could be useful to you with what you're going through right now, right? Maybe you need more patience. Maybe you need just more strength. Maybe you need the ability to endure, right? Maybe you need the ability to transform in the way that earth transforms things, right? It takes them in and composts them, right? That's how the earth makes more earth, like, you eat a banana and throw the banana peel down, right? At first it's a banana peel, right? You come back a year later, it's going to be soil, right? um, Now there's certain things you can do to accelerate that process and whatever, but this is not a class on composting. This is a class on meditation, um, so the point is, right, how do we bring the qualities of that kind of energy into ourselves? I mean, all these qualities are always within the self anyway, right? But how do we bring it out and make it stronger, right? So that we can have the patience that we need, right? Have the strength that we need, right? Or whatever it is, right? Whatever that earth quality. Okay, so we have a breath that goes along with it, and it's the breath that we typically use, right? It's breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. All right. Um, so Hazrat Khan has a very interesting essay and talks about these five desires, and they correspond very closely with these elements. Okay, so uh, we have, for example, we have the desire to seek happiness, right? So here's a line. It is a most natural desire of the human soul to seek for happiness and comfort. Man desires principles to guide his life, and he wishes for a moral standard to regulate the life of the community. Now, I have to say, this was written in the 1920s, so it uses this kind of sexist language, but please try to overlook that. He wishes for a balance of activity and repose. He desires union with the one whom he loves. He wishes for security of all that belongs to him, a settled reciprocity, a fixed give and take, and all things which bring about happiness and peace at home and in the nation. Right. So this reflects a lot of these earth qualities, right? Everything in its place, orderliness, peace, right? Like, consider a rock that's millions of years old, right? It gives a sense of peace, does it not? I mean, it has that. It is what it is, right? So something to, is this the reason that you come to meditation, right? Is this something that speaks to you, right? Do you come to find a peace? The earth breath can be very helpful for that, right? So it's a way of breathing, right? And we're also trying to do all the things that I already taught you, right? Like, you have your posture, you make your breath deep and slow and rhythmic and heart centered and full, and right, all of that stuff. I know it's a lot to think about, right? That's why I said you guys are going to work harder than maybe you thought you would, right? When it comes to relaxation, but this is the kind of paradox is, sometimes in order to really relax, you need to work first. Right? So, um, very old method of meditation, I'm sorry, of relaxation, works with this principle, which is that you tense everything up as hard as you can, and then let it all go, right? And that, okay, so it expresses that kind of paradox. All right, so let's try this out. Okay, let's do our meditation practice again. This time, considering that earth element and those qualities that I mentioned, especially that quality of peace. So breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the nose. Paying particular attention to the soles of your feet now, right? The soles of your feet are what is often the part of you that is often connected to the earth. Pay attention as well to your your seat, right? That is where your a lot of your weight is going to be resting if you're seated. So the your foundation. And as you breathe and feel your heartbeat and breathe in rhythm, feel the magnetism of the earth. Feel yourself as being part of it. Feel the strength and stability of the earth. The earth endures. The earth has lasted a long time and will last a long time further. That gives a certain sense of security, of safety. The earth has a quality of orderliness. Everything goes in its right place. The earth works with boundaries. Some of us need work in that area, sometimes we don't feel like we can say no, or we struggle with that. The earth can be very helpful for that, this earth energy, right? Because say, well, this is not the place for that energy right now. And so it is a kindness to say no to it. All right. So I hope you're getting something from that. Oh, I see I have a comment here from Arabian Socialist. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining me. Didn't know you were going live. Happy to catch you while you are. Yes, glad you could. Glad you could join us. Um, so I'm going kind of out of order with this text, but one of the other ones that Mazar and Khan discusses the desire to probe the depths of life, um, and this one is a kind of a poetic passage. I like this passage. It says, um, "Man with the maturity of his soul desires to probe the depths of life. He desires to discover the power latent within him. He longs to know the source and goal of his life. He yearns to understand the aim and meaning of life. He wishes to understand the inner significance of things, and he wants to uncover all that is covered by form and name. He seeks for insight into cause and effect. He wants to touch the mystery of time and space, and he wishes to find a missing link between God and man, where man ends and where God begins. And this desire also finds its fulfillment in the contact with the spirit that religion gives." So, kind of a beautiful passage there. Right? desire to probe the depths of life. We can think about this in conjunction with another uh, line here, or little paragraph, which is the love of life. So he says, every living being on earth loves life above all else. The smallest insect, whose life lasts only an instant, tries to escape from any danger in order to live a moment longer. And the desire to live is most awakened in man. As intelligence awakens, he begins to wonder whether life is merely transitory, and if after his life all is ended. To him, the thought that after his short life the world will end is more terrible than death. And if life had not an intoxicating effect, this thought would kill many people. The man who thinks that after this life there is nothing more cannot dwell very long on that thought. Dwelling on this thought and contemplating upon it is like what a man feels who is standing upon a great height and looks down. It terrifies him. The belief that life will continue after we have gone through death is a most comforting idea for every soul. The man who has not received the reward of his efforts, of his goodness, who has not in his life met with an answer to the sense of justice in him, who has not found in life a complete satisfaction, the man who has not been able to attain his desire in life, his hope is in what will come after, and this religion promises him. So, when we're talking about depth, when we're talking about love, when we're talking about connecting, we're starting to shift to a different kind of energy, right? And this one is good for the water breath, right? The water element. So the mystics have used this metaphor again for a long time, right? Much older than Hazrat Inayat Khan, thousands and thousands of years, right? People have been talking about the qualities of water. What does water do? It joins together, right? It becomes one. Wow, right? Water is flexible, it's adaptable, it merges with, right? It dissolves. So, and it's long been a metaphor for communication, for communion, for love itself, right? And because water is heavy and it moves downward, right? When we talk about exploring the depths of the self, the depths of your heart, the depths of life, right? That water type of energy, okay? Again, I'm not talking about physical water, it's just a metaphor, right? We're talking about that kind of energy which merges, that kind of energy which connects, that kind of energy which surrounds and joins, right? So we have a breath which helps us to actualize this, and it's called the water breath. So it's breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. Okay. Now by doing that, we're it's again another thing for us to pay attention to. Okay, it's different from the earth breath. Earth breath, remember, that's just in and out through the nose. So now we're breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. It requires us to kind of pay attention, right? Which part of the breath are we in right now, right? What are we doing? It's another level of concentration upon the breath. All right. So let's try this out. Take your upright posture, tune into your breath. Make your breath deep, slow, rhythmic, heart centered, and full. All of the different aspects of optimal breathing that I discussed earlier. And now, as you breathe out, so you're breathing in through your nose, and as you breathe out, then you're just with your lips just a little bit parted, and just breathe out through your mouth. So, right, you can see my mouth is not all that open, right? It doesn't need to be that open for it to work, right? It doesn't have to be like that open, right? It can just be a very slight opening, okay? You might notice that your breath feels very different, whether you breathe through your mouth or whether you breathe through your nose. In your ordinary activities or whatever, it feels different as well. But in meditation, you're really paying attention to it, right? You're really focusing on your breath. Okay, so And what we want to tap into as we're practicing here is that feeling of flow, that feeling of moving down, that energy which connects, that energy which, you come in contact with water, you get wet. Water joins with you in a way that earth does not. Earth is boundary, water is connecting. So you just imagine that your breath now is, as you breathe in, this energy is falling down on you from above like rain, right? Collecting in the bowl of your heart and pouring forth as you exhale, right? As you breathe out. And I think about the people that you care about, people that you respect, the people that you admire, the people that you love, and feel your connection to all of these people. You're all swimming in the same ocean. Feel the depth of that connection. Feel the vastness of it. Feel how much there is there. You might even begin to feel that the love that pours through you is not just your own, but is unbounded, is infinite. It is the love of the universe. The Sufis have always given a very interesting interpretation to the different physical laws, right? Saying, for example, that it is love that makes the planets orbit the stars, right? What an interesting interpretation, right? We might say it is angular momentum, or we might say it's gravitation, or we could use a prosaic term, right? But when you get into this poetic state, when you get into this energized, mystical state, it really feels much more accurate, it feels right to say it's love. It's love that makes the world go round, right? There's a reason why that phrase exists. What qualities does this water element bring? What can it help you with, right? Well, it can help you with adaptability, with flexibility, right? Water adapts. Water takes on different shapes very easily, right? Perhaps that's something that you need in your life, right? Or perhaps you feel blocked, your energy feels blocked, right? Work with the power of this exhalation through the mouth, right? Really gives the different shape to the energy of the exhalation when you breathe out through your mouth, doesn't it? Um, so that is, it can really remove these blockages. We all get this, right? We feel stuck. We feel like we're not progressing. Uh, Very difficult, right? We often we feel, maybe we feel a creative block, right? Um, Water can, right, break that dam. You know, it's often associated with mercy, with forgiveness. The earth is very orderly. The water can adapt to many different situations, right? It's a different kind of resiliency that comes out of that water element, right? The earth endures through strength, right? The water adapts, takes on a different shape. That's different kind of energy there, right? Perhaps that's more suited to your situation, um, to your development at this moment, right? So there's a couple of things going on here, right? There is, what are you dealing with right now? What kind of energy would help in this moment? What is your heart calling for? What seems like it would be helpful given the situation? And then what is helpful for you on a broader level in terms of your development as a person holistically, right? Um, so, and of course, meditation does all these things, right? Meditation changes your energy right now, right? Um, and by working with this repeatedly over time, that energy builds up and will transform everything about you. All right. Well, let me talk about the next one of these elements then, which which is seeking for the ideal. Okay, I'm gonna read the little text here. The first desire. I'm reading them totally out of order. I'll be honest. The first desire is the seeking for the ideal. There comes a time when man seeks for a more complete justice than he finds among men. And when he seeks for someone on whom he can rely more surely than he can on his friends in the world. There comes a time when one feels a desire to open his heart to a being who is above human beings and who can understand his heart. Man naturally desires to meet someone who is greater than he. And when he seeks his ideal in the world of mortality, since the human soul cannot come up to his ideal, he is naturally inclined to turn towards someone who is higher than man. Man wants to feel that there is someone who comes to his aid, someone who is near to him in his loneliness. He feels a need of asking forgiveness of someone who is above human littleness and of seeking refuge under someone stronger than he. And to all these natural human tendencies, there is an answer. And the answer is given by religion, and the answer is God. Right? Seeking for the ideal. So, Hazrat and Khan talked a lot about the importance of the ideal. What is your sense, your version, right? Your heart of what is ideal, what is perfect? It's a thing that does not exist in the world, right? It's a conception one has. It's hard to even explain it, right? Like so many of the really important things in life, right? You can't really put it into words very easily. If you do, the words don't really, they maybe express a piece of it, right? Your ideal, but it has that sense of like, what lifts you up? What do you aspire to? You know, that gives you inspiration. Um, it lifts you beyond the limited and banal, prosaic kind of qualities of life, right? It is transcendent. Um, it can't exist in the world. The world's too limited for your ideal, right? But we long for it, right? Because some level that we're more, right? We're more than these limited beings that we think we are, right? We're a lot more than that. Inside, we're infinite, right? Our soul and spirit is eternal, perfect, unbounded. So we want to experience the truth of that, right? We want to bring that to our being, right? Not just as some kind of abstract notion. Oh, I read in a book that we're all perfect. Great, right? No, that doesn't do anything, right? I mean, it's a nice idea, right? But no, we want to feel it, right? Just like it's not going to help you to read a romance novel and say, "Oh, this falling in love sounds nice, right? How beautiful." Right? No, we want to actually experience that, right? And if you've ever been in love, there's a universe of difference between reading about it and experiencing it, right? You can't pair one to the other, right? So, right. Let- For this, we need the fire element. We need the fire breath, right? The fire is that light. Okay, again, it's a metaphor, right? That kind of energy which is bright and shining, which lifts you up, which gives you the heat and passion, it gives you drive, right? It has power. So the fire breath is the opposite of the water breath. Okay, the water breath we breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. We're going to do the opposite with the fire, right? We're going to breathe in through the mouth, out through the nose, right? And we're going to let's try this out. Okay, I'll talk about it as we're trying it out. So again, you just let your lips be slightly parted as you breathe in through your mouth. And as you breathe in, focus on the depth of your heart, your solar plexus. I don't know if you guys can see this on me, right? The solar plexus is the base of your rib cage. Okay, this is where my rib cage ends. Okay, here's your solar plexus right here. So focus on that. This Sufis call that the depth of your heart. Okay, so as you breathe in, you focus on that, and then as you breathe out, okay, so the energy is rising from your solar plexus, and then it's projecting forward. All right. So both the water element and the fire element move forward on the exhalation. Okay. But this one rises and forward. All right. So adopt that movement in your breath, not physically, but the energetic movement. As you breathe in, just feel that it's like your breath is like blowing on a coal, right? When you blow on a coal, it burns brighter. Breathing in through your mouth, feeling that heat and brightness and light and truth. That is your being, that it rises, it lifts you higher, reminds you of what it is that you aspire to. What is it that lifts you up? What is it that is so much greater than yourself, and yet you long for it? And as you breathe out through your nose, you project that energy forward into your life. All right. So I hope you get a sense of that this is a different kind of energy that has different qualities, different uses, right? Um, Now, the last of these, we're kind of out of time for the course. I try to keep the course to an hour, the class to an hour. So the last of these is the air breath that is in through the mouth and out through the mouth. Another kind of energy. I guess we'll talk about that one next week, right? So again, the purpose of all of this, right, is we want to try to train ourselves to think about things in energetic terms, right? Um, and also to experience that energy and then to transform energy, right? Because it's one thing to tune into energy and say, okay, this is where my energy is at, but a lot of times that's not going to satisfy us, right? We want to also change our energy, right? We want, because there's more going on in life than just us, right? I mean, there's other people as energy. There's the energy of a situation, right? There's all these things, right? So we often want to change our energy in order to meet the demands of life or to develop ourselves to grow in the ways that we need, right? um, so this is a tool toward that end, and I hope it's useful to you. So um, again, I'm here every week. If you'd like to come back and meditate again next week, I would love to have you. Um, if you have any further questions, please feel free, drop a comment here or connect me on Twitter. Um, I'd love to hear from you. So namaste, take care, everyone. Have a good evening. See you all next week.